bit behind schedule, but what does that matter? You are listening to Woodstock 104, WIOFLP, Woodstock 104. It is now time for Pot Talk with Joe Barton. Okay, here we are doing another episode of Pot Talk, and I got Paula here with me, and it's wonderful. And we got someone special on the line here. This man, Tom Crawford from England. We heard about him, and we picked him up on the internet and what he's been doing, and it's wonderful. And we're really glad to have Tom here, because when Tom tells his story, maybe the people here in America will get off their butts and start doing something like the people in England are doing. Are you there, Tom?
Yes, I am. Good evening.
Hello. I'll let you start out. Tell my audience.
Let me introduce a bit.
Oh, Paula wants
I
to say
just want to
something.
say I picked up Tom Crawford on a Facebook page called Eviction, the Fraud of the Bank. Now, what was very interesting is when I sent friend requests, it took me a while to kind of pick my way through. It was like Tom. I do a study of IP address discrimination, and there is a lot of containment that's going on the internet. But when I saw some of these YouTube videos and that your community had gotten together, I realized that this was a very noteworthy story. So your YouTube page, Eviction, the Fraud of the Banks, I think you have about 2,000 members, and I'm one very proud member. And I just wanted to introduce you that way. So thank you for joining us all the way from England, Tom.
Yes, it's great to be with you, and I'm sure once you hear my story, people in the States will do exactly the same, because standing alone is, I'd say, very lonely, but when you get people to stand with you, it's immensely empowering.
Right. So, as I understand it, you were almost finished paying your mortgage, and then the bank said, no, you're never going to be finished paying. Is that correct?
Right. I'll tell you a story. Basically, we took out a mortgage in 1988 and continued paying it for approximately 10 years. Then we discovered that they changed our mortgage terms from an endowment, which is an insurance policy for paying your mortgage, to a capital and interest. The bank, when we notified them, sent my wife some flowers and a bottle of champagne, and we thought it'd been all sorted out. Then we discovered 6 years later they changed it to interest only, and we've been battling ever since. 25 years we've paid for it. It should have ended, and they still want the same amount of money or the property back. But because of our research, we discovered why they're doing this, and I'll probably enlighten some of your listeners too to how they're able to try to steal a family's property after 25 years.
Tom, is it possible to, there seems to be feedback going on, Randy. Are you on speaker, Tom, and could you take it off speaker if you are?
No, I'm not on speaker.
You're not, okay. Okay, there's nothing we can do then. Okay, just talk very loudly, yeah. We're all ears.
Speak louder.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. When you sign your mortgage, I would suggest you look into it, because you'll find in that mortgage there's a power of attorney, and that power of attorney gives the bank the facility to change the terms and conditions without even notifying you, to raise capital, and you end up paying for it. We also discovered that conveyancing solicitors not only work for offering employment, but they get from the bank. This is a conflict of interest. So whichever way you the system is totally.
I think he's on a cell phone. It's very intermittent.
The bank is now very aware of the activities of myself and my family, and also we've started a group to help other people that are being evicted or who have already been evicted to get their properties back. And I would suggest that groups of people in America take the same course of action as my wife and myself.
Tom, are you able to hear us okay?
Yes, you're perfectly clear.
You are not perfectly clear, and we're a little concerned. I wonder how we can remedy this, if it can be.
You want me to recall you back again?
Try it,
Yeah, why don't you try calling back, and maybe we can get a better connection.
Yeah.
Okay,
then.
Thank you.
Okay, bye for now.
Thank you.
Okay. And while we're waiting for Tom to get back to us, I want to tell you a little story that we found out. Tom got on the internet and started putting out his story, and hundreds of people came to support him. When the constables came to try to evict him, there were hundreds of people there, and the crowd drove off the people who had come to evict Tom. Anyway, the point that I was trying to make is that in England, the group is really, groups of people, large groups of people are standing together against these banks doing these foreclosures. And that's something that the American people need to learn. Unfortunately, the American people, you people out there have been sheep. when you know that someone's being evicted, you say, well, that's their problem, you know, and then they get evicted, and then eventually the problem comes to you and no one stands with you. We need to get the American people standing together like they're doing in England. They're stopping evictions because they've got hundreds of people that are showing up and not allowing the eviction to go down. That was one of the reasons that we wanted Tom to call, because we were hoping that maybe when you people out there in America start hearing that the people in England are standing together and standing strong, that maybe you people would get motivated to start sticking up for each other and standing up for each other. It's time to really unite in this country. We, the people, have the power if we stand together, but if we don't stand together, if you just keep being the sheep that you've been for so long, we just keep going down one at a time, one at a time, one at a time. We proved that in our court cases. When a lot of people showed up in our court cases, it made a difference. It made it so the judge couldn't shut us up, and we had quite successful court cases because people stood with us. So it's time, when you know a friend's going to court, gather 20, 30 people to go down, 50 people, 100 if you can get it, and go to court with them. If you know someone's going to be evicted, then get as many people as you can and stop the eviction. People united can't be defeated.
Police called to help with eviction of disabled tenant.
Yeah, you can read that one till he comes.
Okay, so he had posted this and he said, so sickening. And what it says is, although it's old, this was August 8th, 2013. A disabled man was left partially dressed in the street in his wheelchair after being evicted from his home. Police had to break down the front door of Vincent Tumulty's house in Leicester yesterday after he had barricaded himself and his carrier inside because he did not want to leave. The 51-year-old had backed his wheelchair up against the door to stop his landlord and officers entering the property.
Hello?
However, police were able to force their way past, and Mr. Tumulty, who has multiple sclerosis, was evicted at about 3 p.m. Okay, by about 4 p.m., the windows of the property in Clarendon Park were being boarded up while Mr. Tumulty, who was not wearing trousers, sat outside. His carrier was granted access to the house to collect a small selection of his belongings, including a new litter of Jack Russell puppies, which, well, he'll try again, which had been born that morning, and which Mr. Tumulty clutched in a box outside his former home. Can you imagine a litter of newborn Jack Russells? Landlord Vipin Gohill had been granted a court order as a last resort to evict Mr. Tumulty, whom he described as an abusive neighbor. Mr. Tumulty said social services offered me somewhere temporary, but said I had to get rid of my dogs. They also said I'd never see them again if I did, so I'm not doing that. That means I've got nowhere to go. A city council spokesperson said it had offered Mr. Tumulty a place in a nearby nursing home, which he had declined. The spokesman said that offer still stands. We have also advised him that he can go to the Dawn Center and given him contact details for the Dogs Trust and RSPCA. The Dawn Center in the city provides temporary accommodations for the homeless. Mr. Gohill, 42, said he had tried to evict Mr. Tumulty in June, but the tenant had resisted. Yesterday, Mr. Gohill, the police, and a team of bailiffs were at the scene to remove him. Mr. Gohill said Mr. Tumulty was asked to move out after neighbors had complained about his abusive behavior. He said he was asked to leave about 2 months ago but refused, so we had to get a court order. Neighbors had said he was intimidating them, swearing and throwing glasses. This is a last resort. We haven't been left with any other choice. Mr. Tumulty denied he had abused his neighbors. That's absolute rubbish, he said. His carrier, Ewona Naroka, who had been in the house with him when the police broke through the front door, said he doesn't want to leave. He's been here for 3 years. He lives by himself and has MS and he needs care. This eviction was humiliating for him. Everyone could see him in his wheelchair outside his house. He wasn't even given a chance to put on trousers. A spokeswoman for the police said police were called to assist a landlord in possession of a court order to evict an occupant of a property. Officers assisted in negotiating with the man to voluntarily leave the property, where arrangements have been made for him at an alternative accommodation. Mr. Tumulty said yesterday that he did not know where he was going to spend the night. Now, are you on, Tom?
Tommy?
Yes, I'm here.
Were you able to hear that? I got that off your page today on Facebook.
Yes, that was... Yeah. It's just another sad story of an eviction that could have been handled much better.
So, you want to pick up where you left off? Because I think we can hear you better this time,
Yeah, we
right?
can hear you better now.
No, that's good. I had a bit of trouble getting through, but yeah, I can hear you perfectly well. Yeah, so basically, you really need people to come together now, because the banks have no longer any money. They're doing a land grab now. The main thing about our eviction, or attempted eviction, was the unusual circumstances of coming to the end of your mortgage and being threatened with eviction. This gave a bit of a shock to the whole community, because if we weren't safe, certainly no one else could be safe. And people are now resisting these illegal evictions. We have a group called Response. It's spread throughout the country. There's approximately 13 different regions, and each have a response team. People that need assistance turn up and check the paperwork off the bailiffs, only to find that not one is correct. So we're doing very well. We've stopped 24 evictions so far.
Wonderful.
Now, there was a post that Joe thought was yours, but that was Mr. Ebert. Can you explain that one? That wasn't you, but that was part of the same group?
So Mr. Ebert is a forensic document investigator, and along with a very clever man, Guy Taylor, we aren't adhering to the proper form. They're assisting the banks in court. So when you walk into a court, you are just walking into a private meeting where the bank and the court have already got together, and they will, in most cases, foreclose on you. So we believe that we've actually cracked their system now. We've discovered all the fraud. We've probably reached of great help to not only...
I just want to say, you're speaking on an FM radio station here in Woodstock that has beautiful sound. It goes by analog, and this is all the more reason that Randy Steele is disgruntled about the quality of the Internet, because I understand you're coming in through Skype. So this Internet call, it seems as though the great secrets that you've learned about foreclosure in England may be kept secret unless we can straighten this out, which is all the more reason why Randy Steele is resisting a lot of the Internet regulation, which ostensibly is there to protect the convenience and the free flow of information.
And it's possible that the through the Internet they know you're talking to us, and they may be messing with your sound, because we're quite well known on this end for causing trouble for the powers that be. We fought them in court, and we've exposed the bank fraud here, and we've done numerous cases on different people in similar situations to you, but on other topics. We've had people on who had their cattle being killed to drive them off their land. We had a nurse who was a whistleblower about how they're denying poor people medical attention, and about a man who died because they refused to give him medical attention. So we're quite on their radar, and it's possible that they don't like that you're talking to us, and especially through the internet. We're quite well known on the internet. If you really check out Paula, Gloria, and Joe Barton, you'll see a lot of stuff that we've done on the internet.
Well, we're going to be moving from the normal systems as well because of the interference and the monitoring of what we do, because right now they are very, very scared because their system, I do not believe, is going to survive 2015. The system is complicated, but when you analyze it, it's very simple. So I wouldn't be afraid of the civil procedure rules. Just go by their documents and analyze them.
Right.
For instance,
we've done shows on that. Go ahead.
Yeah. When they send out a warrant for the possession of your home, simple thing to do, and you'll have it under the same civil procedure rules there, but we've got different numbers. Ours comes under CPR 5.4.2, where they have to produce the file.
My understanding is a warrant is witnessed by a judge, not issued. It's not the harmed party has to issue the warrant. Is that what you're finding is erroneous with the paperwork?
That's one thing that's a little bit of a red herring that they put there to confuse you. It should be signed by a judge, but the very first thing that they must do is pay a fee to issue any proceedings. And you will find, if you get your court records, you must look for court fee payment. And I guarantee 99% they won't have paid that.
Brilliant.
If you issue anything to court, they will make sure that you paid, because it can't proceed without that.
Right.
The next thing to look for is a request for a warrant. That's another thing that they do not do. And the third thing is an order for a warrant that a judge has to issue, and then you get the warrant. And the warrant that they turn up with generally doesn't have that process. That is the process that they're failing on, and that's why 99% of warrants, when they turn up at your door, are fraudulent documents. Had the bailiff turned up at our door, we would have arrested them. And if the police didn't do it, every man and woman has the right to arrest a criminal.
Now, Tom, it sounds like you people over there are very stand-up and fearless. It seems in this country people are a little more intimidated and frightened.
Well, I wouldn't say that people here would stand up, because it's only when you come under threat, under duress from these dark forces, that you find your courage. And this is why more people are standing, because they're coming under more threat. Now, I'm sure there will be a turning point in this country, as well as in the United States, where people will say we've had enough, and they will turn. So I wouldn't put your own people down. They're exactly the same as us. 90% of people don't know what's happening.
I just don't know if you have as high an incarceration rate in England. The United States has the highest incarceration rate in the country, so people are frightened about that. But what it seems in your case, you were able to bind the community together. They came closer in your community. like you said, they realized if this happened to you, it could happen to them. In my apartment building, a co-op building in Gramercy Park, I lived in a very prestigious part of New York City. And part of the allure and the prestige is you think that the management company is handling things for you. Now, as we were proceeding with our case and the word was going around in the building, part of that time they think, oh, they're not paying the bank, or, or not paying the maintenance. But there were a few of them who sort of gingerly were making overtures, but I was putting too much attention on my cable TV show and on the internet rather than more attention on the local community, the immediate community around me, because people, there's this hope you can keep the problem at bay and that it won't come to you. But, the whole idea of rights being violated, if it's violated for the least of us, and if the economy's melting down, you're going to see that it's going to start from the lower classes, but it's going to go all the way through until this beast's appetite is satiated, and it never is.
Yeah, well, it's not the lower classes, it's all classes. We've got millionaires involved with us that's been robbed. It's there is no middle high class situation.
Yes.
They just want their property.
Yeah, thank you, Tom.
Incarceration.
Yeah.
Yeah, in incarceration we've got the same problem, but once again, the prisons are corporations. They're making money out of people in prison. And in your part of the world, I believe they're made to work as well. So they're making an income for the prison services. But with the fear of or embarrassment of not paying your bills, that's the type of stigma they try and put on people, not to come forward and speak. But in our situation, my wife and I had paid 25 years. So we didn't have that stigma. And then all of a sudden people realised if it can happen to Tom and Sue, it can happen to anyone. And the whole area we're supported by, and we're supported by people from hundreds of miles away. And it's growing. Every day, it's incredible. Since the 23rd of July, something changed in the tectonic plates of evictions, and it's remarkable. So many good people are coming now and standing up to these evil institutions.
What happened on the 23rd of July?
That was the day they tried to evict us. There was a article published. It was the name of our road is Fern Chase, and in the article it said miracle on second from the film. A Wonderful Life. They put the article out as the old film, It's a Wonderful Life, and it was very similar, although I wasn't going to commit suicide. Everybody came together.
Right.
It's a replay of that, and it went national. It's been all over the world, and your little station has picked it up now as well.
Where do you see this going?
Well, I really don't know. I hope it doesn't stop until we stop this fraud, which is in every country throughout the world. With what we're doing right now, we're setting up common law courts as well.
Wow.
Because the civil courts are only there for banks and financial institutions. They're certainly not there for the man and woman. And common law is our only remedy left.
Yeah, that's what we've been trying to organize people here in America to do, but England's way ahead of us as far as sticking together. The American people have been brainwashed by television and by the education system here to conform, and accept authority, and they don't challenge it here. We've seen actually quite a few cases from England where people have gone into court and challenged the court system, and it's wonderful that the people in England are standing up. We've been trying like crazy to get the American people to stand up, but unfortunately, we're a country of sheep over here. The people they won't stand up, and hopefully when they see things like what you're doing, it'll motivate them more to stick together and start doing something. We've done quite a few shows on the bank fraud and how the banks have been scamming everybody, and we've been trying to educate them, but go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you didn't cut me off. But you're perfectly correct. The idea is to keep us entertained. That's why the likes of football players, baseball players, television shows, actors, vast sums of money to keep us, while we're entertained, they rob us. It's corporate crime, because throwing a ball around a pitch is it's just a hobby, but for a man to get millions of pounds or dollars to do it is obscene when you have a nurse that earns next to nothing. The system is totally crooked. But the American people are no different from over here. We're still a bunch of sheep over here. The majority, they're not awake, but they are waking up now. And I do believe that this year will change things. I see it in all different movements, and it's for the good. It certainly isn't for the bad. And we've got a general election coming off in May, I believe it is. And the more that we can put this to the politicians, we've had the politicians involved. It's gone to the Justice Secretary in the House of Commons here in the UK, and it's a total waste of time because it's the same system.
Yeah, unfortunately, the politicians have all sold us out. It don't matter over here, it's mostly Democrats and Republicans, but it don't matter. Like, we had Bush, and he was making all these crazy laws, and everybody was saying, oh, the Patriot Act, it's terrible. And Obama comes along as a Democrat saying, oh, that's bad. When I get in, I'm going to change it. When Obama got in, he strengthened it. He made it worse. All the politicians have sold out the American people. It's time to run them all out of office. The form of government... The form of government that we originally should have had over here, we had a constitutional form of government, but that has been usurped, and now we have, as probably you have in England, a corporate government. And the corporate government is not responsible to the people. Their bottom line is profit, and they make profit working with the banks and with the big corporations, and they just put it to the people all the time. Over here, about 30% of the people actually vote, and with such a small minority of the people voting, these politicians don't really have a mandate to do what they're doing. They don't have the will of the people behind them, but they're doing, you know, the politicians have sold us all out all over the world.
Tom and Joe and Randy, I want to propose something. Since it's so difficult to hear Tom, but he can hear us, I would like to read about half a page out of 43 pages that Joe and I got, explaining something about Well, in this case, Tom, what we're working on right now is we have a Cooper Lake, and the bottling company wants to come along, and they're taking a natural resource from the people, and we feel that this bodes very ill for the well-being of our future generations. What do you think if I read that? Maybe the sound will straighten out with Tom better? And then, because he can...
It's going to make any difference.
No?
No, I think it's just the Skype line he's going to...
I think it's just a Skype line, Len. Why don't we let him talk for a while?
Okay.
Why don't we let him talk for a while, and then...
Because you really haven't talked, neither of you, and we really need good, clear communication to get into the underpinnings of the global economy and the global trusts, and how the Pope sits as the major trustee, and how some big changes seem to be coming on the inside because of this, because it's so gruelingly fraudulent, and the people are suffering so much that there are a lot of people on the inside who are concerned. What do you think, Joe?
Okay, but let's not do a long.
Just half. Okay.
I prefer he's talking long distance, so
I know. Okay, let's just try this. All these legislatures and public officials have been using public resources and buildings and everything else to benefit their own private for-profit corporations for decades. For example, they've sold off billions of dollars worth of Alaska's oil. In this case, this is somebody fighting the banks up in Alaska. For pennies on the dollar to their cronies in the oil companies, siphoned off billions into slush funds they haven't accounted for, all by impersonating American public officials and merely asserting a controlling interest in the assets of the organic states. That's what you're telling me? Yes. In 1946, the federal government, which you know now is simply a private, for-profit, mostly foreign-owned corporation under contract to provide governmental services, adopted a crooked bookkeeping system, and the U.S. Congress... You have to see, they use different words, Tom. Sometimes it's caps, and it's, part of it, and it represents different entities that they're shuffling.
I'll explain that. When they put a name in all capital letters, like when they use your name in all capital letters, they're actually saying you're a corporation. Or when they use the United States of America in all capital letters is an incorporation. When they do it in small letters,
we're very aware of that.
Oh, okay.
The only place you find it is in a corporation or it's on a tombstone. It's a dead entity. They made a corporation out of your name.
Right.
Right. Okay.
So when you read that,
we're on the page.
Read all caps when it's all caps.
Adopted a crooked bookkeeping system, and the U.S. Congress, in all caps, quotes, gratuitously declared it to be legal for the government, even though it was recognized as being illegal for everyone else. They basically borrowed the double-entry bookkeeping system from Fast Eddie O'Hara, who was Al Capone's bookkeeper. The IRS learned it from Eddie when they prosecuted Capone back in the 1920s. Getting rid of this system has been the principal driving force behind all the Basel I, II, and III banking reforms. The essence of the crooked government accounting is in keeping two sets of books, use of undisclosed off-book escrow accounts, undeclared income accounts, and future time encumbrances. They have also failed to transparently report their public investments to the public. To use an example from Alaska, the state of Alaska, in all caps, splits its income stream into budgeted and non-budgeted income. The governor, in all caps, decides how much he wants to give out as a budget, and the legislature, in all caps, argues over this little bone and keeps the crowds entertained for the rest of the session. This sideshow keeps attention focused only on the budgeted account. Meanwhile, the far greater share of the income and investment is being passed through to the investment accounts and escrow accounts and subsidiary accounts belonging to technically separate agencies. Once a year, the state of Alaska, in all caps, produces a financial report called the, in all caps, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, the CAFRA, CFR. This is far from a true comprehensive financial report in that it passes off responsibility for including the detailed data from all the annual, in caps, annual financial reports of entities like the, all caps, Alaska Mental Health Trust and all caps, Alaska Housing Finance Corporation.
Go to the beginning of this and give everybody who's listening how to get this up. This is a 40-page document, 43-page document by the lawyer for the Pope, who's exposed all the fraudulent stuff that the government and that the banks are doing.
If you go to freedomfirstparty.net, put in the search rebuttal to Francis. Francis is the Pope. And this is, quite detailed. Let me just finish up the paragraph. Alaska Housing Finance Corporation in all caps and the University of Alaska in all caps and so on. But it does not reveal some very, very startling things, and it provides the basis to dig out the truth about all caps state of Alaska finances. The last time this sort of analysis was done in the 1990s, and it was only a big strokes research project, it did not get down to the fine detail level, nor did it exhaustively investigate myriad subsidiary, all caps, annual financial reports, end caps, only the three largest ones at that time. The state of Alaska had over $3 trillion in unreported, non-budgeted income, interest, investments from prior years, other investment income, program fees, and monetized assets standing on the books. Only the Commissioner of Revenue, Lindsay Goldberg, the governor's office, this is all caps, and senior bureaucrats at all caps, legislative budget and audit, end cap, would have an accurate guess how much it has ratted away now. This is typical of the way these corporations work. They keep people distracted by focusing public attention on the pennies in one pocket while they are stealing the gold bars from the other pocket. As an example of the corporate conflict of interest, the leadership of, all cap, the state of Alaska legislature, end quote in caps, and various other corporate players have been happily colluding to squeeze play the Alaskan people out of the benefit of their natural gas resources. The cap state of Alaska, end cap, has long owned via investment a very large interest in all caps N-Star natural gas, end caps, and has a vested interest in maintaining N-Star's monopoly as the only viable gas supply utility in Alaska. So as a self-interested private corporation, the caps, the state of Alaska, end caps, is determined to keep the price of natural gas and propane in Alaska unnaturally high to help maintain all caps N-Star's, end caps, monopoly on in-state gas energy supplies and to prevent any large-scale development of Alaska's gas resources that would encourage competition for caps N-Star. It is also vested self-interest in wrangling pipeline construction contracts for N-Star. So I won't go on, but I just, wanted to emphasize, Tom, that by the time it gets down to the bailiff and a warrant, and whether it's proper or not, and like you say, in 99% of the cases you're finding it's not, it's because, there's a big heist going on, a big swindle coming down, and it's the little guy that is...
Go ahead.
That's exactly what's happening with the banks also. You find that, for instance, if you take out, let's say, a $100,000 mortgage, they securitize it. They're allowed to sell it up to 10 to 12 times. You're looking at a $1 million amount. And not only that, they also take an insurance out on the individual who's taken out the mortgage in case he doesn't pay. So after 3 months, which is 3 payments, and you miss that, they'll come after your house, and they also get their insurance paid out. So it's double dipping and double bookkeeping. So I understand exactly what you're talking about.
And just to add to that, they also securitize your name, and they have, I don't know if you know about the trust fund that they have in every person's name under the all caps. they put away, since none of these countries no longer have money, it's all backed with paper. They had to
IOUs, debt.
Right. They had to back it with the labor of the, in our case, in America, the labor of the American people. And in order to back it with the labor of the American people, it's like if you had slaves, whoever owned a slave had to take care of the slave. They had to have housing for the slave. They had to have food for the slave. They had to provide for the slave. So when they created all of us to be slaves, they set up an account in all of our names under the all capitals, and the governments put a trust out for each of our names, and money goes into it every year that's supposed to, it's a credit account that's supposed to take care of us. And what happens is, anytime you sign a paper and sign your name, the banks or the courts tap into that credit. So when you don't pay a bill, they tap into it, and they get paid out of the credit account that's in your name, that's a trust account, and at the same time, they turn around and they try to collect from you. So they're collecting twice, once from your credit account, and once when they get you to pay.
Yeah, that's right. That was all started in 1666.
We're glad you know about that.
Yeah. But doesn't matter which way you look, there's fraud.
Yeah,
and
yes.
The majority of the population is not aware of this. And it's like stations like yourself, your duty to now notify the public of this. This is the biggest fraud that's ever been known. It's never been publicised. And the banks right now, there's a lot of bankers committing suicide. The same with judges. They know what's coming. They seriously do. They've got their little islands, the Cayman Islands. They're moving there. They're getting out while the getting's good.
Well, I don't believe that these bankers, a lot of these bankers are committing suicide. I think the guys above them who had them doing criminal stuff, it's like the big drug dealers. If you're the big guy on top dealing drugs and you see the police working their way up the chain, they bust the little guy on the street, then they bust the next guy. Well, what they do is they kill off the guys in between so it never gets to them.
Yeah, very true.
I mean, this was called to our attention from a friend in China. He was pointing out that there was a rash of about 20 J.P. Morgan traders that were jumping out of buildings, but one body was found having jumped off a roof that he did not have access to. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, we're having the same here. Strange murders that's occurring. And that can't be explained. But we've also discovered another thing. When the police turn up at evictions, we've discovered that they've come to an agreement with the courts not to investigate the documents that the bailiffs have. It's called a memorandum of understanding. So they accept any document that a bailiff's got. You can print these documents with the court stamps off the internet, and if I filled one out, they'd arrest me. But these people, the criminality is so shocking, it takes your breath away. And they must take the public for idiots because they think they're going to get away with it. But these people will go to jail in the end. Well,
we hope so. We're working towards that.
We're working that way towards it.
We had that happen. Paula got evicted, and the warrant. We knew the warrant was shaky, and she called the police. When the police came, they looked at the warrant and just stood around and did nothing.
But I was so upset and so frazzled that I didn't have enough clarity to insist to the officer that came to tell me, is this a proper eviction warrant, which it couldn't possibly have been in retrospect. Also, the city marshal was absolutely refusing to let me put him on camera, would not show me photo ID, and when the policeman came, or the sergeant came, it almost, I have it on video, which I'll after this call I can get over my post-traumatic stress and actually post it. It goes exactly, Tom, how you said. The paperwork wasn't good, but he seems to have gotten some kind of nod and wink, and all of a sudden it was okay for him to be on camera.
Yeah. What we're finding here also is the police. See, there is two police forces working in the same situation. You've got police constables in this country. They're the ones that act under common law. And then you've got police officers. They're the ones that are there to protect the financial institutions. They're the ones that give you speeding tickets, parking tickets. They're revenue collectors, not real police officers. But the thing is, they are not taught the law. We've asked them, do you know the law? And they quite openly admit they don't know the law. They just follow orders. And the last lot that followed orders was in a little trial in Nuremberg, and they hung that lot, so they better watch what they're doing as well, because common law officers will be taken to the streets and arresting police officers. And it'll be almost like a war in the streets between the good guys and the bad guys, hopefully.
Well, hopefully that the common law people are going to stand. We've been trying to get common law going here in America, but you guys are definitely ahead of us with the people standing up. The people here in America, they're bigger sheep than they are in England, that's for sure.
Well, I think, Tom, that
Canada.
What's that?
Canada right now, on the 15th, will be declaring a break from the Crown of England, and will be declaring the whole country only under common law jurisdiction.
Wonderful.
That comes under the International Common Law Court of Justice, which I'm sure you can. I'll get some links up for you to follow these things. We're doing the same in this country. Hopefully it'll go right round the world. But the Canadians are ahead of everyone.
Did you hear the show that we did with Werner Bach, the farmer in New Brunswick, at mnn.org Saturday night? I had it streaming out. I don't know if you were able to pick it up over in England. I was curious.
No, I didn't know.
Anyway, Werner Brock is a farmer that came over from Germany, and I think in around 69 he left, took some money, bought some land, 600 acres, and then in 73, when his father died, he went back to Germany. And by 75, when they realized he had tapped out his inheritance, all of a sudden they said, oh, the rules have changed. Even though you've been working so hard on this land and you've paid all this money, it really belongs to the natives here. And he said, well, you know, that isn't right. And then they started using directed energy weapons to kill his cattle, and over a period of 15 or 20 years, they've destroyed 300 cattle, over 300 cattle, and really made the cattle suffer terribly, taking out his best breeding stock. But he went into the local church, and during a service, and went right up to the front. The preacher stopped preaching, and he just looked at the people, because he figured that the particular good old boys in his neighborhood, he sort of
knew who they were, and on 2 occasions had the strength to do it. He's also been able to get clear up to very important people in government, one who's become an ambassador to the U.S. So again, the more we get this word out, and the more it can be seen that the people really care
I feel the more responsive people in high political positions will be they'll respond, unlike what Joe is saying, that they're sheep, that indeed there are, it doesn't take that many percent to change the tide.
People rise, they will rise, but I tell this to many people, type of times we're living in, you mentioned the church. What are the chances of a vicar, priest, or whoever, whatever religion, knocking on your door and asking, what can I do for you? Against a bailiff knocking on your door saying, what can I take from you? I think you're more likely to get a bailiff nowadays than you will a man of God.
Yeah.
The church is letting down.
Tom, we just need to do station identification, and then we'll be right back to you. Randy just has to announce our call.
It's WIOFLP, Woodstock 104. You're listening to Pot Talk with Joe Barton and Paula Gloria. Now back to the program.
Okay, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, so the normal backup for people in trouble like churches aren't there any longer. It's down to the people themselves to help each other. And that's why it was so great what the people did to assist us in our eviction. And it's our duty now to help other people, not just us. We've got our grandchildren. We've got to do this for them and their children. Because if it's like this day, what's it going to be like in another 20 years' time? It will be like, I think it was 1999, wasn't it, the film? Where
84?
basically slaves going to work.
1984, that book?
Hello?
Is it that book, 1984?
84, that's the one. And that's A Brave New World, the other one.
Right.
Orwell.
Telling you what's happening.
Aldous Huxley and Orwell, yeah.
That's right, yeah. And they do tell us what's coming, or they try to. The likes of The Matrix and films like Alice in Wonderland and that. They warn us. They've got some perverted idea that they should tell us before they do it. And we just don't listen. We're too entertained, as the gentleman just said, rather than take action.
Excuse me, Tom. Tom, were you implying that 1984 was a type of disclosure?
Oh, yeah.
It was a war.
Listen.
That's the one world order that they're heading for.
Oh, could you say that again? It was a little garbly.
Yes, that's the information that they're giving you. They're telling you they want a one world order, and this is how it will be. You'll be woken up, you'll be put to work, and then put to death. And only the top 0.1 of a percent will be benefiting from it. Everybody else, they won't.